All right, we're moving on to our next questions here in the Go Programmer interview questions. These are a bunch of questions that I put together to help developers and organizations when they want to either be hired as a Go developer or hire Go developers. So if you're a developer and you want to get a job as a Go programmer, going through these videos, this is a series of videos. The link to the playlist is in the description down below, so you could go through all of them. And going through these videos will help prepare you for a job interview in the Go programming language. And if you are an organization, a company that wants to hire Go developers, you can use these questions to help, in the interview process. You can find all these questions, I say this in all these videos, by going to my GitHub repo, goes to 11, Learn to Code Go version 3. And then here in this repo, this is a bunch of code that I put together for this course right here, which is on Udemy, Todd McLeod. There's my course right there. And I'll put a link to the course outline, which right now is 157 pages long. I'll put a link to this course outline for this course in the description of this YouTube video, so you can check out that course outline. There's a nice outline for the Go language there, along with code samples. So if you're at an organization and you need your developers to learn, you could have them take my course, or you could just say, work through this and understand it, and give them this printout. All right, so if you want the interview questions, it's in this repo at goes to 11, Learn to Code Go version 3. And all the 000s are my working area, and then these numbers are code for the course. But the interview questions are right here, 000 BM interview questions. Let's get on to these interview questions. We're going to do 2 of them here. This first question is a follow-up to the previous video. And what is the var keyword used for? I'm going to put that here under an intermediate question where we talked about the short declaration operator. So I'm just looking for the short declaration operator. So we had that, I guess we had that up here under the beginner area. I'll put this here also in the beginner area. So I think actually the var keyword, to really explain it well, that's going to be an intermediate question, because a beginner is just going to say, well, that's for declaring a variable. But we're going to put that here in the intermediate questions. And so we'll put that right there as an intermediate question. And so var is used, right? This is idiomatic Go code. Var is used to declare variables when you need to declare the 0 value. And so anytime you have to declare the 0 value, you want to use var. And the short declaration operator only works within function bodies. And so you want to, by default, use the short declaration operator as much as possible. But if you're outside function bodies in package scope, you need to declare some variables with a value. So you need to declare and assign a value to them. So you need to initialize, because you could declare a variable is of type int. You could declare that, right? And then you could assign a value to it, 42, it's equal to 42. That's declare and assign. And then initialize is when you do declare and assign together. So if you are going to initialize a variable in the package scope, you need to use var also. But primarily the rule of thumb is short declaration operator when you're inside function bodies, and then var also inside function bodies or package scope when you need to declare the 0 value. That's a perfect answer right there. So that's that answer. The next one I want to talk about are how are arrays and slices different in Go, and what are rules of thumb around arrays and slices in Go. So this is an intermediate to advanced question. This is about as advanced as Go gets if you talk about this in its thoroughness and depth. And to begin our discussion of this, a wonderful explanation of it, if you have access to a computer, is to go to go.dev if you have access to a computer in the interview. Go to go.dev. And then here at go.dev, you could come up to docs and go to the standard library. And then the standard library, you could come down here to runtime. And then in runtime, when it opens, you can see the dial spinning. You could come down here to all the packages in runtime. Down at the bottom, you could say view all the source files, view all the source files. And when you view all the source files, it'll bring them up in a new window. At least this is the way it appears now. And then you could click show all here, because we were only seeing 500 of 680. And then when you come down here, these are all of the files that make up the Go programming language, the runtime. And so you could click slice.go right here. And when you come in here, you will see the data structure for how slice is created in the Go programming language. And you can see that this data structure is a struct, and that it's got 3 elements in the struct. It's got an array, and it's got a length, and it's got a cap. And so you could point this out. You could say, here it is. This is the internals of the Go runtime. And a slice is a data structure that has 3 words. and it's going to be a pointer to an underlying array, and it's going to be the length and then the cap. That's the way a slice is defined. And so I'm going to copy this right here just so you could take a look at it. And or maybe I'll bring you from, because that number will change right there. And the 120 you saw how to get there. I'm not going to put it in the code because that's going to change. So that's the first part, is just understanding what a slice is versus an array, and then understanding the syntax, the mechanics of how you create an array versus how you create a slice. And then also understanding the considerations around the fact that a slice is a pointer to an underlying array, and how that could help us with not polluting the heap and with efficiencies, because it helps keep all of our program on the stack as much as possible. And then we have that underlying array, we have the slice pointing towards it, and that helps us not pollute the heap, so it helps with garbage collection, helps keep things more efficient. Like, all of those things are good answers. And then here we have the rules of thumb around using slices over arrays. So you can pause the video right here and you could just read through these. There are the first 7. And then you can pause the video again and you could read through the rest, and there are the rest of them. And so by default, the general rule of thumb is to use slices over arrays, but there are some cases where it makes sense to use arrays. And when you're using slices, you want to think about your value semantics and your pointer semantics. And the value semantics are for, as much as possible for built-in types and reference types, you want to use value semantics. And then pointer semantics, by default, as much as possible, use value semantics. And then pointer semantics with structs, right? You could use those when it makes sense. And we looked at those in a previous video, the rules of thumb for value semantics over pointer semantics. But when you're talking about slices, you could talk about value semantics and pointer semantics. And you could also talk about how you use make to create a slice, and the difference between having the length be 0 or having the length be equal to the cap. And when you set the length to 0, that's good if you want to append starting right at the beginning of a newly created slice. But if you use make and you have length and cap set to the same, then you could access things by index position easily. And then you could also talk about the differences between copy and append, and the considerations around those for maintaining data integrity. And those are all things you could talk about. I've talked about them in some of the previous videos, so you can watch the previous videos to get more insights on that. I also just recommend Googling. ChatGPT is amazing. I recommend Googling, going to ChatGPTing it. Let's turn it into a verb to see what it has to say about that. So that's my answer for how are arrays and slices different in Go, and what are rules of thumb around arrays and slices in Go. And I would also say that slices are dynamic, right? That their size can change and they grow as you add more data to it. But when you exceed capacity, when length and capacity are equal, and you grow the amount of items stored in a slice, it's going to create a new underlying array, and that could have unintended side effects, which you really need to watch out for. So those are all good things to think about and to share when you're talking about slices versus arrays. That's my answer for this question. See you in the next video.